Hey, my name is Natalie, and I've been teaching and practicing tantric meditations for the past 10 years, and I talk about all topics to do with Tantra as a way of living and as a very specific practice that we can do in our life in order to feel better with ourselves, to feel happier, and to have a healthier sex life and just in general to reconnect to our emotions. Today I wanted to talk about what our sexual fantasies mean or say about us, about who we are, about our subconscious. I recently did a video about, it's okay to fantasize about other women, you're not doing anything wrong. It's a way of sending this loving energy to different women that we fantasize about, and I did a whole video on that subject if you want to watch it. And in general, it made me thinking about the different sexual fantasies that a lot of us have. And I'm guessing the world of psychology kind of talks about this, but if we're looking at it from an emotional, energetic point of view, every single fantasy that we have that comes up in our head when we're masturbating, when we're working with the sexual energy, does mean something. I don't know if it says something about us, but it does mean something. And it can say something about our subconscious, about the hidden desires, about different emotional baggage or blockages that we have around our sexuality. So I wanted to give a few different examples of sexual fantasies, like the most common ones, and what they can mean on an emotional level. And I also had a session with someone this week where we talked about his different fantasies. So I'm going to start with the one that he gave me. And I do want to say everything that I talk about is the same for men and women with a little bit of different, small alterations. But in general, sexual energy is sexual energy and sexuality is sexuality. And we're all kind of the same at the end of the day. Yes, the fantasies and the content and the way the energy works and the body might change between men and women, but the work is the same work. As you can see, I am a woman and I am talking about these issues because I just got a comment, what about the women? You're just talking about men. Yes, but, I'm a woman. I'm talking from a female perspective. And I think most of these things are relevant for both genders. But I do work specifically with men more than I do with women, which is why I talk about male sexuality and the different exercises that men can do more than I do about women. And if there are any women who are interested in content that's specifically for the female gender, please let me know in the comments and I will make them, because all of my actual first-hand experience with these things, with these subjects, with these energies is as a woman. So let me know if that's interesting for you. So I'm going to start with the guy who came to a session this week, and he was so embarrassed. Like, we got to the topic of sexual fantasies and he's like, I'm going to tell you my fantasy, but I've never told anyone before and I'm really embarrassed about it. And I'm usually in this vibe of like, what can be so bad about your sexual fantasies that you can't share it with someone? Like, I know they can be embarrassing, but usually that embarrassment is because we don't share it with anyone. We don't tell anyone about our fantasies, and then they seem so big or bad inside of our head. But when we actually talk about it, they're like, okay, it's not that big of a deal. So this specific guy told me that he sometimes might fantasize when he's masturbating, like when he's working with the sexual energy, he will fantasize about an older woman having sex with him, touching him, like doing sexual things with elderly women. And I don't think they're like 80-year-old women, but they're like older women than him. And he thought that was really weird. And then after he told me the fantasy and I was like, okay, so mummy issues, he was like, maybe. I also, suddenly he told me other things. He was like, I also had sex with a woman when I was 23 and she was 40. So I'm like, okay, could it be that you have this inner emotional desire to be loved by your mother, by an older woman who's mature, who can see you, who loves you, and who nurtures you and gives you that motherly love? And he's like, yeah, well, I never had that much of a mom growing up. She wasn't really present. And I just showed him, it's okay. It doesn't mean I want to have sex with my mom. It means that I want to experience the mature, feminine, nurturing, motherly energy. And that desire also comes up within my sexual energy and my sexual desires. But the desire for having a motherly, nurturing woman is normal. We all have it. And it's something that can show us, the places that we're lacking in emotionally is that connection with a mature woman and, with our mother from childhood. So it's just about understanding the fantasies. There's nothing here to solve or to fix. There's nothing wrong with any kind of fantasy that you have. But if you're worried about that fantasy, or it kind of bothers you that that's what you fantasize about, then maybe going a bit deeper and understanding the emotional reasons that that fantasy came up would help us kind of accept ourselves more in those places. One of the most common fantasies that women might have, and I worked one time a few years ago with this very religious woman. She wasn't a woman, she was a young woman. She was like 23 years old, she was still a virgin. Her religion didn't allow her to have any kind of sexual interaction, with men. And she told me she would fantasize about men R-ing her. I don't know if I can say that on YouTube, R-A-P-E, but like forcing themselves on her, and that would turn her on. And she was very confused about this. Like, she was sure that something bad happened to her in her past, and I talked to her about her past, and we didn't really find anything that actually happened there. And she grew up in a good environment and she had no bad experiences, but still every time she would masturbate, she would imagine men forcefully doing things to her, and she was very confused about that. And during our conversation, what I tried to show her was that you are horny, but your religion tells you that you shouldn't be horny. So you're kind of blocking that out, you're shutting it down. But from your subconscious is the desire to have sexual relations. But because I'm not allowed to, because of my religion, even in the fantasy, I'm forced to do this act. And if I'm forced and he wants to do it, not me, I'm a perfect, godly saint, whatever woman, I don't want those kind of things, but he really wants it and he made me do it, so I did it. So it's kind of not accepting that place inside of me that wants to have sex, that is attracted to men, that wants to have these sexual experiences. Because of the place I grew up in, my subconscious is going to help me still experience those things, but it's going to match my story, the life that I live. So she can't suddenly fantasize about having amazing sex with a very handsome guy on a beach somewhere, because she doesn't have those concepts in her head. The only concepts that she had in her head to do with sex was that it's wrong, it's bad, and you're not supposed to do it or want it. So the only way that she could fantasize about it was when in the fantasy she was forced to do it. And once she understood that, and once she was able to accept the part inside of her that is horny, that does want to have sex, those fantasies kind of went away. And she understood herself a lot better. Another fantasy that men might have about women is the other way around, where they're forcing themselves on women. Maybe they fantasize that they're a police officer and that they're arresting this woman. And then once she's under arrest, they're doing things to her. Or maybe, different fantasies about weak women who kind of have to do what you want them to do. And I think that fantasy shows that a lot of men have frustration with women. They feel powerless. They feel weak themselves. They feel that they're not connected to the masculine energy, that they're not connected to that hunter, warrior kind of masculine, I'm going to do things to you energy from a good place. Maybe they feel weak. Maybe they feel they don't have the self-confidence. They don't value themselves enough. They're not connected to the masculine energy. So they'll fantasize about a woman who's kind of below them, and then she will be submissive. So it's kind of a desire of men to be with a submissive woman. But a submissive woman isn't because of actual weakness. It's from love. I love you so much and I trust you so much. I'm just going to completely surrender to you and you can do whatever you want to me. And that is a normal desire that both women and men have. But if we're not able to reach that place in our real life, then we might start fantasizing about different situations where that's kind of how it has to be. You know, maybe I'm the police officer and I'm arresting a woman, and now I have the power over her, and she has to be submissive because she's under arrest, and now she's going to do what I want her to do. I don't think these fantasies are from a bad place. I think they are from a deep inner emotional desire to feel more manly, more masculine, more connected to that energy, and to experience sexual interactions with nice, loving, kind women who from their free will want to be submissive and to surrender to the man during the sexual interaction. Again, because so many men don't have those experiences, these kind of weird fantasies can come up. And a lot of people have guilt because of these strange fantasies, because they don't understand them, because, you know, they seem really bad and awful and terrible. And if I actually did these things in real life, then it would be a crime, and maybe something's wrong with me, and maybe I shouldn't be aroused by these things. But if we understand that these fantasies are just a way for our subconscious to kind of create situations that it's lacking in real life through these stories and these fantasies, then we can use the fantasies to learn more about ourselves, about the things that we are actually lacking in life, about the, you know, emotions that we want to feel and we're not feeling enough. And we can learn a lot about ourselves, and we can learn what places inside of us need the healing. So I wouldn't be like freaked out by your fantasies. I wouldn't be, you know, a lot of people are angry at themselves for fantasizing about these things. I don't feel like that's very productive. I get it. Like, I understand why people get angry about themselves for these weird fantasies. I don't know. I just remembered, like, sometimes I'll talk to women and they have these fantasies of like a lot of men having sex with them at the same time and all these penises everywhere. And it's not like she actually wants to have a gangbang with men, but she has this really deep desire for men to approve her and to love her and to be attracted to her. And maybe for some time during her life, she wasn't that attractive and she didn't really get a lot of attention from men. And so that's where that kind of fantasy comes from. So we can keep on talking about fantasies for hours, because they are, you know, the number of fantasies are the number of people on planet Earth. But I did want to show you kind of a different way of looking at those fantasies. Instead of something bad that I'm imagining and getting horny from, this is a door to my subconscious, to my emotional needs and lacks and desires, and I can learn a lot about myself from these fantasies. But if I'm just stuck in the guilt and the shame and the anger, then I'm not learning anything. They keep on happening, and I'm in this like addictive loop of imagining something bad, being angry at myself, but then doing it again, and then being angry at myself, and it's kind of a never-ending loop. So we want to stop. We want to stop judging ourselves. We want to stop being so angry at ourselves and our desires. And we want to look at these fantasies from a non-attached place, just like, wow, that's interesting. What could that mean? What could be behind that? What could be the emotional lack that creates that story? It's interesting to find out these things, but I think we can only do it and use this, you know, kind of realm of fantasies for our healing only after we stop judging ourselves and stop being so angry at ourselves because of the judgment. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. I hope it helped a little bit with this issue. I know it bothers a lot of people, and I know that a lot of people sometimes don't have anyone to talk about these things with. So I wanted to bring the topic to the surface and talk about it and give a few examples, and I hope that it helps you in whatever fantasies you're dealing with at the moment. So thank you very much for watching my video. Thank you for all the amazing comments I've been getting from you guys. Please let me know, you know, what kind of work you've done with fantasies. If you're stuck in your work there, maybe, you know, tell me a bit about it and I'll try and help, because I do read and answer most of my comments on my channel. So thank you again for that. And I do private sessions online one-on-one with people who want to go a bit deeper. There's an option of an hour or half an hour, or a few sessions. So if you want to talk about these fantasies with me and together understand kind of, you know, what they are, what they mean, what emotional blockages are creating these fantasies, the details are below. Please let me know, and I would love to work with you guys. So thank you again, and I'll see you in my next video.